I'm Jill Urbach, and today I'm reviewing Hallmark Channel's A Christmas Carousel. If you're a fan of Hallmark Christmas movies, you are in the right place. And if you'd like to be alerted the next time I post a video, click the subscribe button and that little notification bell, and that's all you gotta do. A Christmas Carousel is one of the movies in Hallmark Channel's Countdown to Christmas 2020 lineup, and it's one of the few that has royals in it, and I'm always up for a good royalty-based Hallmark Christmas movie. The question is, how does A Christmas Carousel compare to Hallmark Channel's earlier royal Christmas movie this year, One Royal Holiday? Let's find out. We'll go through several elements of the movie, including the meet cute, my favorite secondary characters, the wardrobe of the movie, any nitpicks I have, what's noteworthy, where it falls on my personal Heartstring Meter, as well as my overall rating of the movie. Here's the synopsis of A Christmas Carousel. When Lila is hired by the royal family of Arcadia to restore a carousel, she must work with the prince to complete it by Christmas. Lila is played by Rachel Boston, and she works with her father to restore the carousels that were originally made by her great-grandfather. She is also an art teacher. Neal Bledsoe plays Prince Whitaker, who is the crown prince of Arcadia, also known as the Casanova Prince. He has resisted marriage because it's assumed that once he marries, his dad will retire and he will be expected to ascend the throne, which will entail changing who he is. The expectations of the king of Arcadia are that he's very stuffy and formal and serious, and that's not Prince Whitaker at all. He loves art, he even teaches art, and in general, he's not a formal guy. Let's talk about our meet cute. Okay, so Lila and her dad have been hired by the royal family of Arcadia to fly to Arcadia and restore this carousel by Christmas. They have like 2 weeks to do it. Side note, have you ever noticed in these movies that when someone says, hey, I'm flying to Arcadia, people just go, great! Like, nobody thinks to ask, where's Arcadia? And it wouldn't detract from these movies if for once we had someone say, where the heck's Arcadia? It would be just as cool that they're off visiting royalty, even if it was some country that their friends could admit they'd never heard of, right? But I digress. So the restoration on the carousel has begun, but it's just not going fast enough to be done by Christmas. Lila arrives to check out the carousel for the first time, and when she's there, she bumps into this ladder and almost knocks off the guy who's at the top of the ladder, who is the one who's been working on restoring the carousel. He's charming and flirty, and there's a little bit of a connection. Later, she finds out that he's not only the prince, but he has a girlfriend, she thinks. So she's pretty irked that not only did he not tell her he was the prince and her boss, but he was flirting with her, because she already knows about that Casanova Prince reputation and she is not impressed. Let's go through my Christmas movie checklist. You too can have your own copy of the Hallmark Christmas movie checklist to keep track of all those traditional Christmas elements in the movies. Just click the link in the description below and you can download your own free copy. The items on this list are derived from Hallmark's own guidelines on the Hallmark Publishing website. First and foremost, Hallmark prefers a snowy locale. And of course, Arcadia is a snowy locale, so check that box. Let's see what traditional family Christmas activities they did. Picking out a Christmas tree, no. Decorating the tree. So they said they were gonna decorate the tree, and then they just sort of cut to the end where like they go, oh, look at our decorated tree. So they cheated a bit on that one. Same with the tree lighting. Heidi, who's the king's assistant, invites Roy to come over for the tree lighting that evening. And it's the same thing. We never actually see the tree lighting. We just see after the fact. And honestly, I thought the tree lighting was like one of those events in town. Like when you're just decorating at your own house, even if it is the palace, you don't really call it a tree lighting. You just say, hey, come over, we're decorating the tree. At least I do, but then I'm not royalty. Such a shame. There's no contest, no attending church, no toy drive helping the needy fundraiser. There is a dressy holiday event though. We like to see our Hallmark stars dressed up in their finest, especially when they're in a palace. And none of these acceptable but not needed. No moderate faith elements, no hint of magic, and no time travel. Let's talk about my favorite secondary characters. I really enjoyed Lila's dad, Roy, played by Stuart Hughes. He was just a warm and loving father. I also really enjoyed little Princess Maya, played by Tessa Cosma. She was sweet and natural and charming, and something about her voice reminded me of the little girl in the original Mary Poppins movie. Just that kind of classic sweet. I always like to talk about the wardrobe in our Hallmark movies, so let's discuss this one. I had a little problem with the white sweater that Lila was wearing towards the beginning of the movie. She's in a workshop working with her dad, woodworking, and she's wearing one of those sweaters with the extra long sleeves that's like hanging down. So not only is she in a white sweater, which is gonna get dirty, but she doesn't even like push up her sleeves to get to work. They're just kind of in the way. Once they were at the palace, it was a more formal attire, even their day wear, and Lila had some really nice day dresses. Most of them were some form of like a dark teal or green, but that was a lovely color on her and it worked. I really liked the velvet deep teal dress with the flutter sleeves that she wore to meet the king for the first time. Little Princess Maya had this plaid dress she wore at one point in the movie. I just love red plaid on little girls at Christmas time. This wasn't exactly wardrobe, but it tied in. Heidi is the king's assistant, and when we meet her, she's very efficient and her hair's always just back in a low bun. As we go through the movie and she develops this friendship and romance with Roy, Lila's father, her hair becomes a little looser. First, it's just kind of like partway down, and by the very end at the gala, it's completely down and flowing. Representative, I suppose, of her romantic journey. Let's talk about the clothes at the gala, which was the final dressy event of the movie. Lila's dress for the movie was okay. I mean, it was pretty on her, and Hallmark's fallback color for their heroines at the final Christmas event is red. She did have a really long white wrap that was just draped nicely over her arms, and that went well with the dress. The dress I really enjoyed was Margaret's. It was this very elegant, kind of sexy, low in the back, beaded cream dress. Much more glamorous. And Maya's green dress that she performed in was pretty and age appropriate, and when they went outside to reveal the carousel that had been restored for her Christmas present, she had this lovely cloak that she put on over her dress. Prince Whitaker was not so fortunate at the gala. His uniform was so horribly fitted. He had these poor actors some coats that fit. It was way too big in the shoulders, so consequently they were droopy, it was puckering in the back, and then he had these gold braided ropes that were part of the uniform, but they just made his shoulders look droopier. Like poor Neal Bledsoe was probably so depressed the day that he went to wardrobe and saw what he had to wear for the gala. It's hard when we know our costume just doesn't look right. And I'm sorry, Neal, yours didn't, but it wasn't your fault. Another thing that irked me about Prince Whitaker's wardrobe was he had this blue bandana he wore, and it was like, this is my working bandana. When I wear this, you can tell I'm one of the people. It was just kind of cheesy. Let's talk about my nitpicks, and I have quite a few. First, Lila and her dad are professional restorers, right? And Lila's poor use of the woodworking tools just drove my husband nuts. At one point, he's like, she is going to stab herself in the leg. And it's hard to stay with the storyline when you're concerned about the safety of the actor. At one point, she's looking at this wooden leg for a horse, and she's like, it doesn't have the right movement. I don't know what's wrong. And we know what's wrong. It's not three-dimensional. It's basically like someone jigsawed the shape out of a piece of plywood. It was not a carved three-dimensional leg like you would have on a carousel horse. And then everything in the painting process when she was working on the Princess Carousel. First of all, there was no like stripping of old paint and priming, and then the way she was painting as she was talking and flirting with the prince, she's just kind of like holding her palette, not even looking as she's painting, you know, restoring this decades old beautiful carousel. She would be paying a lot more attention. But I realized that might take away from the conversation, and it is a movie, but it was a little distracting. And then later we see the special wishing horse that has just been freshly painted, and she's leaning against it while they're having a conversation. And I just thought, are you sure that paint is dry? Because it's awfully cold and it might take longer for it to dry. The first time they go to the carousel, the king's assistant, Heidi, is leading them, and like the carousel's maybe 30 feet away, we see it. And she says, almost there. No kidding. At another point, the prince and Lila are at a coffee shop making plans, and they're just sitting there hanging out and nobody's paying them any attention. And I just wondered, would the prince really be able to be in a coffee shop and just be ignored, even if he is one of the people? and there's no security around or anything. At one point there's an evening scene and Maya goes to bed and she's wearing one set of pajamas, and then in the morning when Lila and the prince visit her to wake her up, she wakes up in a different pair of pajamas. Interesting. And then it's just hard to see grown men bossed around by their dad, even if the dad is the king. The only place that has been believable has been on the TV show The Crown, and that's because of the actress, and it is Queen Elizabeth. And then the prince, it's Prince Charles, who's just kind of a weasel, and the actor plays him that way, just like, So you can picture him being bossed around by his mother, but Prince Whitaker just... Thank goodness he's not a weasel like Charles, or he couldn't be our Hallmark hero, but I don't know, it just seems so weak for him to be cowed by his father. What's noteworthy in this movie? There were some cute moments. Some you had to look for a little harder than others, and then some of the interplay between Lila and Prince Whitaker was fun. Their banter was good, they had an energy and a connection, especially the first scene at the carousel after the meet cute where he didn't tell her who he was. Where does A Christmas Carousel fall on my personal heartstring meter? My heartstring meter is purely my physical response to the movie. What emotional strings were plucked to make me tear up or get the chills or anything like that? This movie just got a 2.5. It was enjoyable, there were a few moments that I liked, there were some nice moments with the dad and Heidi or the dad and Lila, but really no big emotional responses to this movie. And my overall rating for the movie is a solid 3. So if you enjoy the Royal Hallmark Christmas movies, go ahead and give this one a chance. But if you have not yet seen One Royal Holiday, I highly recommend you go watch that one first before you spend your time on A Christmas Carousel. Have you seen it? What did you think of the movie? Let me know in the comments below if you agree with my review or if you liked it better or worse. And if you want to be alerted the next time I post a video, be sure to click the subscribe button and hit that little notification bell. And feel free to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. See you next time. Bye-bye.